you do some side jobs while she thinks about how to proceed. It's a measured response, and I feel like I'd also question the newest member in the escaped circus clown's word. So it's off to do 2 more contracts, which are really easy and lack any real substance. Man, remember the crazy shit that you'd have to do, or like the unique ways to kill people in general that came with Oblivion's Dark Brotherhood contracts? It's insane to me how cut and dry these quests are. And the biggest thing that changes is how you get treated by the contract giver. When you make it back, Astrid has made her decision and tells you to follow the Night Mother's orders to see where this is all leading. So you trot off to a tomb where a particularly wealthy-sounding individual is wringing his hands in anticipation. And then he proposes to you several contracts which all lead up to the assassination of the Emperor of Tamriel. Well shit, now we're talking. He gives you an amulet as payment as well, one that he assures will pay for any and all expenses many times over. And then he discusses with you how this set of missions will help shift political arrangements to be more in his party's favor. He also mentions that this will more than likely help the Dark Brotherhood rise from the ashes of their former glory to make a swift and powerful return as something to be feared again. Well, we definitely went from generic to super compelling in no time flat. After you give the amulet and the letter to Astrid, she says that the Dark Brotherhood is definitely going to take on this task. The only thing that we need to do is get this amulet evaluated by a member of the Thieves Guild. I was a bit afraid that I might upset some members if I just ran in there without being a member myself, especially when all of these people with names attacked me when I entered the sewers, but no one seemed to mind when I made it to the real deal. It's probably because they knew that there were people like this fella who set up all these bear traps to keep people away from his side of the room, and then charged through the traps to swing at me. So yeah, apparently the amulet is from someone on the Elder Council, and is worth a small fortune. When you return to Astrid, she lets you know that you're going to be killing the overseer of the East Empire Trading Company's operation in Solitude. Not only that, you'll be killing her as the bride at her own wedding, with a bonus if you do it while she's giving a speech. And she's the Emperor's cousin. Now this is the kind of shit I was hoping for. I do have to wonder about the logistics of sending the only listener the guild has had for a long time, but hey, I'm not the person driving the Dark Brotherhood into the ground. Oh, and as a side note, there's a handful of extra contracts that are optional in between these quests for those wanting to overachieve. They aren't particularly interesting or inventive, but they're fun enough in their own way, I guess. I guess it'd be like if the Thieves Guild had side quests to rob certain shops in certain cities. It's not anything new, but it's fun in its own right, I guess. Beyond this, the only thing I really have to say about the contract quests is the fact that no matter how dangerous they get, you always get a base amount of gold. Which seems ludicrous to me considering that killing a homeless squatter and a wizard studying Dwemer runes are essentially of the same importance. I mean, I get that I'm doing leftover contracts supposedly, but you're really gonna play me like that? It's just laughable when the very last contract mission is supposedly something of the utmost importance and danger, which is killing a captain of a ship on her own ship. So I waited until the dead of night and I very stealthily eased my way into the entrance of the ship around 3 a.m. and, pardon me. I'm just gonna scooch on by here. Alright, gonna grab a few ingots here and,
I'm going to find whoever it is.
let me just, excuse me? Entschuldigung? Just gotta get out the door here, friends. Thank you. Have a nice day. Alright, let's cut to the real business here. Though this wasn't as exciting as I thought it would be, I did manage to piss off all of Solitude and then cheese it back to Sanctuary. The reward for the assassination is the ability to summon Lucien Lechance's ghost to fight alongside you, which is really cool, but it's also kind of weird. I mean, the poor guy was murdered by the rest of the Black Hand for something that he didn't do. I guess his soul was captured at the same time? I don't know. What I do know is that feeling of, oh hell yeah, Lucien is back and he speaks to you and he tells you about his time and that's great. That feeling wears off fast, because this dude non-stop talks.
Stalking the prey, planting false evidence, destroying an innocent man's
Lucien, buddy,
reputation.
I'm trying to stalk someone here. Can you shut up for a moment, please? Thank you. So the next mission is to implicate the commander of the Emperor's Guard's son as someone trying to assassinate the Emperor. Basically, the goal here is to mentally break the commander, which I like the idea of a lot. But the absolute circus of gymnastics that I have to dance through beforehand are absolutely insane. So the son has to talk to his pops before he gets moving. But when I get close enough to hear the conversation, one of the Solitude guards runs up and sniffs me out no matter if I'm invisible and I have my silent boots on, or anything like that. So I figure I'll pay my fine, and then come back after getting crated off to Solitude. Except that I have a lot of stolen shit on me. So I decide to start the conversation between the father and the son, grab the guard's attention, and run halfway across Skyrim before I can rest. I figure I'll murder him in Whiterun since I'm the Thane there, so I wait a whole 24 hours and then check the map, and he hasn't moved. So I go to Whiterun to drop off all of the stolen shit in my house. Except some of my gold and lockpicks are stolen. Who knows how much. So I guess I'll just throw it all into the chest and they'll automatically sort out, right? Pfft, you're out of your mind if you think that. So I throw all but 1,000-ish gold into the chest so that I can pay the fine. And then I throw a handful of picks into the first chest. And then I push another fistful into the end table. Then I shove a cupful into the dresser. Then I slide another bucketful into some other object. Until I find the single lockpick that was stolen. Well, that wasn't fucking worth it at all. So I'm good to go. Stolen goods are hidden away. Time to go turn myself in. So I travel back to the town where the commander and his son are talking, and there is no guard to be seen. I listen to the conversation and the son gets moving, and that's it. What the hell, man? Also, just listen to the sheer clown fiesta of noise pollution in this game.
Look out. Where is that lazy man?
Destroying an innocent man's reputation. Truly.
You're going to try and sell me something? Well, I ain't interested.
Sometimes less is more, Todd. So you kill the guy and plant the evidence and hoof it back to Sanctuary, where Cicero has apparently gone berserk and tried to kill Astrid. He took off into the woods and Astrid's husband went after him. You're told to figure out what his motivations might have been by reading his journals, and then go after him. Now this is where things get really fascinating. So Cicero seems to have been a pretty normal, but dedicated member of the Dark Brotherhood. He started his service more than 12 years ago. At some point he started to keep a journal, speaking of the diminishing influence of the Brotherhood in Tamriel, listing the remaining sanctuaries and talking about the politics and dangers around them. Well, after one sanctuary gets ransacked, another gets closed down shortly after, and the remaining two are the one that you're at right now, and the one that was in Cheydinhal. During the raids, the last listener was killed, and the Night Mother's body was recovered by someone else. Cicero was made the new Keeper of the Night Mother, which is a role that wasn't traditionally necessary until now. This meant that Cicero could no longer take on contracts, which he was very saddened by. His final contract involved the murder of a jester, one that laughed at first, and then cried and begged for his life as he was tortured, and then finally laughed until he died. This murder left a profound effect on Cicero's psyche, as he was more or less sentenced to cleaning and oiling the corpse of the Night Mother along with exterminating any bugs and whatnot. As the years went on with no new listener, Cicero's mental state deteriorated more and more to a state of insanity. First, he had one of the 4 remaining members of the Cheydinhal branch kill another one who falsely stated themselves as the new listener, but didn't know the password. Then one of the last 3 died to a bandit. By this point, Cicero had started to lose his mind, embracing the laughter that he remembered the jester had spouted before death. The second to last member told Cicero that he was leaving to find food and then never came back. So Cicero sat in the Cheydinhal sanctuary for 8 years before finally moving with the Night Mother's corpse northward. But he didn't go to Astrid's sanctuary. Traditionally, the listener is the one who hears black sacraments being performed through the Night Mother. But since there hasn't been one, the members of the family have taken it upon themselves to spread out and do their best to hear of sacraments being performed. Cicero finds this to be against the laws of the Brotherhood, and instead hides away in the abandoned Dawnstar Sanctuary. Of course, after a while, the silence of the Night Mother again drives him out of Dawnstar and to the last sanctuary, where he planned to teach Astrid a lesson. I liked reading this set of journals a lot. I'm unsure if I was fascinated more with reading the Matthew Bellamont journal in Oblivion or these ones, but I can say for sure that I really enjoyed delving into Cicero's descent into madness. So you tell all of this to Astrid, who sends you off with Shadowmere to go settle this once and for all. Chasing down and killing the Jester is a bit tough, but when you finally get to him, he pleads for his life, commanding you to tell Astrid that he's dead and leaving him be. If you go through with this, he can eventually become a follower, but his gear is just honestly too good to leave him with. And so ends Cicero. As much as it seems like he was just an insane dude, he was actually probably the most dedicated to the laws of the Dark Brotherhood more so than anyone else. Astrid certainly doesn't seem to believe that the Night Mother is a real force, or enough of one to command everyone else over her rule. But with all this said and done, it's time to continue with the assassination plot. I'm to kill a very high-profile and prestigious chef, steal his papers saying that he can enter the keep where the Emperor is staying, and take the chef's place. That's, it's not a particularly unique storyline, but, you know, whatever. I imagine I'll be poisoning the king. I wonder if someone else will taste it for poison first. But before that happens, we gotta find out who the gourmet chef really is. This old balding scrotum says that he found a cookbook that was signed to some other chef, and that I'm supposed to go to that chef to interrogate him about the gourmet's identity. Thanks, old-timer, you really do a lot of good work around here, don't you? So you slap this guy around until he gives up the info, and then you slap him one more time and heck off to where the real gourmet is. After tossing his body into this wine barrel thing, you report back to the old man who goes, "I heard a certain orc has gone missing." Wasn't the whole point of interrogating the first dude? Wasn't that to get him to tell me the identity of the real guy? How does this old sack know that the orc that went missing was the gourmet? Doesn't it kind of ruin the element of surprise if he can gather that just a missing orc, just one missing orc in the entirety of Skyrim was the gourmet from the information out there? I don't know, it just feels like anybody could do that now. Then I'm given a poison to throw into the Emperor's meal, and I guess he's supposed to die fast. Wow, these fellas at the Brotherhood are really banking on no one else eating or tasting this meal before it goes to the Emperor, huh? It's a good thing that no one is on high alert at all from any other closely related recent assassinations. Boy, with leadership like this, it's really no wonder that the Dark Brotherhood is a thriving community of feared assassins, even today. After all this, I go to Solitude and immediately remember that I'm wanted for the high-profile murder of the cousin of the Emperor. So I drop my stolen shit and pay the paltry 1,000 gold sum, and then I turn around and report to the commander who's stationed 8 feet away, stating, "I am the gourmet!" All while wearing a fucking jester's outfit. Where's my... I know they're around here somewhere. Where are my awards? I gotta ship the rest of the writing awards to the Bethesda offices right now! After putting on your chef's hat, you can tell this chick who looks like she's wearing an apron and nothing else whatever the hell silly shit you want to put into this broth, and she'll just do it. Everyone knows that when you cook, you never taste the final product to make sure that it turned out right. You never taste it to see if it needs more salt or pepper or anything like that, no. So she packs it up and ships it directly to the Emperor's open hole. So you get introduced, and then the Emperor takes a big sippy, and then biffs it right then and there. You get blamed, but so does that other poor woman. Whoops. So you blast past them and onto the bridge, and here's where the big boy plot twist happens. So apparently someone from the Dark Brotherhood sold you out and told the commander ahead of time, hey, there's a guy coming to poison the Emperor via food. Also, I'm from the Dark Brotherhood. If you could just leave us alone since I told you all this, that would be great. Just don't come near, it's like a little west of Falkreath, southwest of the tower. Actually, here, you got a map? Here, let me just circle that for you real quick. I'll show you where not to go. Please don't come right here. Please. Thank you. The Dark Brotherhood in Skyrim is really just a circus, man. I honestly almost want to see it burn to the ground at this point because there really is no reason at all for the person who betrayed you and the rest of the family to do what they did for the reason of preservation. This whole thing was orchestrated to basically drum up business again and create this reign of fear. But someone had a really big think and they concluded, hey, you know what? I should offer up the first listener in the last, 12 or 13 years. And also this guy knows where the sanctuary is now. Brilliant. I just like that the commander comes slow clapping around the corner and goes, "Ha ha ha, you just killed a decoy!" Buddy, if you knew I was coming to poison the Emperor, why didn't you just make the other chef an undercover guard who arrests me when I add the poison? You just really didn't like that decoy at all, did you? After eluding the ever-stoic guard and hoofing it back to the sanctuary, you find it under siege by lots of the Emperor's guard. You save Nazir and attempt to escape until the Night Mother calls out to you and tells you to hop inside her sleep cabinet. So after taking a nap with Evening Mommy, you wake up to the voice of Nazir and of course the child who survives because you can't kill children in Skyrim without mods. Turns out the big dumb idiot was Astrid, which honestly isn't too surprising given how poorly things have been going for the past however many years since she's been in charge. She tells you that she understands the error of her ways and that she just didn't want to submit to the old rules. I guess the motivation makes sense, but this was probably the dumbest move I've seen all game by someone. Either way, you give her a stab and then NM says, haha, okay, but really you gotta kill the Emperor, man. Fella, we are 3 people strong right now, but yeah, okay, let's do it. So I ran over to Solitude again, took out a few guards and the commander, and then dove into the water and swam up to the ship where the Emperor was on board. I have to admit, Emperor Titus Mede II is probably one of the most baller people I've met in this game. The dude's a lot like Uriel Septim in that he accepts his death, but then he wants you to blow out the guy who set this whole thing in motion after you collect your payment. Then he turns around and looks out the window, presenting his back for me to kill him. What a legend. I couldn't help but eviscerate the guy who paid me to do this. The Emperor just exudes that amount of charisma. So I grab my 20,000 gold reward, talk to Nazir, who tells me that I could probably renovate this place if I wanted to, which has me running back to the Thieves Guild to do so. It's actually an excellent segue into another guild, as the Dark Brotherhood wraps up by giving out Radiant Quest contracts from here on out. I'd say overall I'm not thrilled by the Dark Brotherhood in Skyrim. I mean, don't get me wrong, I did have fun. I mean, shit, you're assassinating people and you get to approach them the way that you want a lot of the time. But the overall plot wasn't super compelling by any means. Cicero's whole part of the story was by far the most interesting, which sucks because the third act of killing an emperor should be a lot more fun than the second act of killing a court jester. I would rate it above the companions simply due to the sheer amount of substance and the slightly more compelling plotline, but I think that it falls very flat of Oblivion's Dark Brotherhood questline. Oh, hello, Godray. How are you today? Is there something you're trying to show me? Oh, just this patch of ground? Well, okay, thank you. So, Riften is home of the Thieves Guild, as mentioned before. Ironically, the guard out front mentions that they think that they control the city, but they're really just nothing but a bunch of low-life thugs. Meanwhile, the guard across from her tries to shake you down for money to let you into the city, so it's not like the Riften guard is the most noble bunch. I said before it was a pretty decent segue to be around the Ragged Flagon, but no one will actually talk to you about joining the guild. You've got to get that going up top in Riften's town square. We meet this lad here who has sniffed out how fat my pockets are after the big Dark Brotherhood score. He asks if I want to make some more coin, and then has me grab a ring from one vendor's stall and plant it on another vendor. This is a cool little test of sorts, but I always felt like the whole idea of make this guy look like he stole from this other guy can only really work if you put it inside the other guy's house or like stall or something. If you just throw it in his pocket, how's someone gonna find it? I guess you're just kind of banking on the first dude going,
Empty your pockets.
After this whole ordeal, you're invited down to the Ratway to see if you can make it past the already dead security. Big Boy Brynjolf is impressed by the display of corpse trampling and assigns you the mission of shaking down some people who owe the guild some money. This involves walking up to them, demanding payment, and beating them down if they don't pay.
I've already told that buffoon that I'm not paying you people a single coin. Come on, give it your best shot.
Come on, he's not so tough. It's you. Please, don't hurt me. Please, there's no need for that here. Message understood. Here, I even have the payment. Help me!
After delivering some street, injustice, I guess, I go back down and get introduced to the main man in charge. He looks me up and down and tells me to go burn down some beehives. How irresponsible. Save the bees. Brynjolf reacts by putting his hands on his cheeks and going, "Isn't that the thing that the other longtime Thieves Guild recruit completely failed? Oh my god!" And Mean Man Mercer goes, "Well, if he can't do it, then what's the point of him being here?" I don't know, why don't you ask the chick who failed this thing in the first place? But yeah, this is also a fun quest. You get to burn down some hives and then steal some guarded stuff at the bottom of a mansion. I feel like I did it in the wrong order, but whatever. Apparently the Thieves Guild is also down on its luck. I guess Skyrim's really good at suppressing its criminal elements or something. Though I guess the Dark Brotherhood lost its influence everywhere, so maybe it's just a coincidence. But either way, the result is that the guild really cares more than ever about keeping its clients. One of which wants to see you immediately after you're done destroying all of that beautiful honey. Maven Blackbriar is a big shot in Riften, one who claims to have the guards in her pocket and the Jarl's ear. She also has a tremendous stick up her ass. She wants you to get to the bottom of how one of her competitors got their meadery up and running so quickly. She's probably one of the more insufferable people in the game that I've met so far, as she claims that she'll sick the Dark Brotherhood on you if you mess up, which is amusing to say the least. So here's the plan. I stroll up to the rival meadery and offer my services as an exterminator for the rat issue that they've been having. I take care of the rats and poison the mead supply just in time for a tasting that the captain of Whiterun's guard is going to be attending. The meadery will shut down after that, eliminating one of Maven's competitors. Of course, there's more than just skeevers down here in the underbelly of Honningbrew. There's also spiders eating the skeevers and a homeless level 900 wizard that can decimate me in 2 shots. Truly the greatest household pest of all. But no, really, the journal of this dude tells you that he escaped from prison 10 years ago and planned on enacting his revenge on the Mages Guild in Winterhold by basically creating a Skaven army underneath the Honningbrew meadery and unleashing it upon Whiterun and then Winterhold. Holy shit. This is a good quest. I honestly have no complaints. The fact that they could have just left it at rat extermination and chill, but decided to throw this lunatic down here with his alchemy lab is an excellent way to take a quest to the next level. So you poison the water hole, attend the tasting, and watch the owner get carted out. Now, in both this quest and the previous one, a symbol which no one can identify keeps cropping up in important documents. This symbol is the mark of a person actively working against the Thieves Guild to cause strife with one of their remaining clients, Maven Blackbriar. At this point though, this mystery person slipped up, and we find out that one of their contacts is a guy who works for the Thieves Guild out of the East Empire Trading Company. So after paying off my many debts to Solitude's people again, I'm gonna grab a case of rare wine to bribe this guy who's giving up who this mystery person is. Well, the wine is just like right there at the front of the castle, which tells me that this is not over. Surely enough, the Argonian tells me that he knows nothing concrete, finishes his big glass of nothing, and then walks out. So I give chase. But slowly. A slow chase. Well, for a moment, I guess. I hate following people in these games. They always move so goddamn slowly. So I just waited it out, and fortunately my guy was still at the front of the building when I got to it. I was a bit put off by some random creature charging towards me at a breakneck pace, but fortunately for me, it was just Tutorial Goat! Thanks, Tutorial Goat! So this guy leads me back to the secret part of the trading company, and I have to wade past all of these dopey bandits. Eventually I make it to the end and the scaly fella gives up the information, stating that it was some person named Carlia. She apparently killed the last guild master of the Thieves Guild, and is now after the current one. Usually when someone is this hellbent on destroying a guild, it doesn't tend to come out of just suddenly being righteous or something like that, but whatever, I guess. So you make it back to Mercer with the intel and he figures out where Carlia is based off of it. So you meet him outside of this place and you and him start going through this crypt. I hate when it's supposed to be like a super stealth mission and it just turns into a debacle almost immediately for the entirety.
Hey, don't let her know we're coming. Be super quiet and watch out for these traps ahead.
And then it just turns into screaming and fighting dead dudes. Neat. Old Mercer here seems to be ridiculous at picking locks. Every unpickable lock is just nothing but easy for him apparently. So you make it down to the innermost part of this area and immediately get shot with some kind of poison that knocks you down and paralyzes you. Here's where the Thieves Guild big boy twist comes in. So it turns out Mercer is the one who killed off the old leader and Carlia was that guy's lover. Their methods clashed, which caused the death of Gallus and the framing of Carlia. After Mercer stabs you, you pass out and Carlia has nursed you back to health. She tells you, well, not all is lost. I found this old journal from Gallus. But it's in some kind of crazy language. I don't know, man. Jeez. And then my guy goes, what if you got it translated? And she goes, oh, that's it. Wow, good thing you retrieved me from that crypt. That one was a real thinker. Translating the journal is a bit of a conundrum, though. It's written in Falmer, the ancient language of the now blind monstrosities which roam the Dwemer depths. They're actually kind of interesting to read up on because they used to be known as snow elves until they were driven underground by the Nords. Then they were betrayed by the dwarves and cursed to be the way that they are now. But their language is ancient and only known by a handful of people. The main source of translation is a researcher in Markarth, one that's been slaving over his research and translation for years. He's understandably stubborn about simply handing over all of the research to you, so it's time to steal it. This involves running through a Dwemer museum and getting to a wizard tower at the end. In the center of the tower is this lunatic's research carved into a big-ass slab in the center of the room. So you have to charcoal and paper it and then run back to Winterhold. The newly translated journal reveals that Mercer had been stealing large sums of cash from the guild to finance his own personal vices. I never understood this one because everyone mentions that the guild has been down on its luck, and how it might be a curse, but it's just this dude stealing all of the earnings for himself. Do these guys think that the thousands of gold that they've been earning just keeps evaporating in the vault? I wonder what kind of explanation they've been offered over the years as to where the money's gone. Beyond this revelation, though, is the fact that Mercer has desecrated a very important shrine to the goddess Nocturnal. You see, historically, a small sect of the elite Thieves Guild members in Skyrim have apparently been dedicating themselves to the protection of the shrines of Nocturnal, the Daedric Prince of Night and Darkness, also known as Lady Luck. Mercer, Gallus, and Carlia were all part of this group known as the Nightingales. It's unclear at this point in the questline what will happen with this new splinter of information, but I guess it's semi-interesting. I'm actually just kind of impressed with the guild's quests overall so far. But I guess I have to say it just doesn't quite feel like the Thieves Guild, you know? Like, it's one of the more compelling guild stories, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't seem to harbor any grand heists yet, where you steal some really cool stuff of large monetary value. Like, the notes were valuable, but used to translate. The meadery was valuable, but I guess it doesn't feel like a Thieves Guild thing, felt more like a Fighters Guild thing. The other quests seem to be all about gathering information or sending messages or getting revenge. I guess we'll see, maybe I'm just getting ahead of myself. So all of the pieces are in place for this big confrontation. How would you expect this whole thing to go down? Maybe they draw on Carlia and attack her before she can even speak. Maybe the guild's surprised that you're even alive, because Mercer told you that he was going to tell them that you're dead. Maybe they just don't believe that Gallus was the one who wrote the journal, that it's a fake. Maybe Daenerys Targaryen doesn't throw away all of her character progression in one episode. Nope, we walk in, they believe everything, Mercer isn't there. He's cleaned out the vault, which they check now, and has taken off. I mean, maybe he was just paranoid, but he seemed super confident that he would have no issue getting to Carlia eventually, and that he killed you. Maybe he should have chopped off your head. Why would he not be at the Ragged Flagon? I don't know, maybe he heard of your escapade with the Falmer notes. But it's not as if I stole the notes, I just made a copy of them and escaped. But he's gone, and I guess he's wiped out the supposedly impenetrable vault, one that needs 2 members with 2 keys to unlock it. So now I have to go to his Looney Tunes Manor in Riften, where there's a funhouse maze of traps and misdirection. At the end of the tunnel lies Mercer's plans to go after one last big score before presumably hanging up his hat and lying low forever. The heist is one that Gallus was working on for a long time, just to add insult to injury. When faced with this information, Carlia comes up with the idea of making you and Brynjolf into Nightingales as well, which involves you getting some sweet-looking armor, probably honestly my favorite look in the game as far as light armor goes. Then you gotta listen to Cortana for a while she bathes you in her bluish purple light, and ta-da! You're a Nightingale! And what's more? Guess what? You're the guild leader now! Yay! I'm so bored right now. I don't know, the whole Nocturnal thing does not interest me at all. I guess because there's no godliness to it. Yeah, the armor's rad, but like then it's just her going, congrats, you're a nightingale. Go on. Protect the shrines. Then you get Carlia telling you that the guild's luck is so bad because of what Mercer did to Nocturnal. I guess the guy stole the skeleton key, a Daedric artifact that unlocks any skeleton anywhere. It's how he got through all of those different, really tough to breach doors with no issue, because they were all really just skeletons disguised as security. Yeah, I don't know, this guild started really strong for me and it's just kind of floundering now. And I hate to admit it, but I miss having all of those extra little titles that come with pushing on through a guild. The Companions and the Dark Brotherhood both lacked it in a major way beyond the final titles like Listener and Harbinger. And now you're suddenly the leader of the Thieves Guild after a handful of missions. No footpad to Prowler to Shadowfoot or anything like that. And it's not as if these ranks just don't exist. I mean, Brynjolf mentions a few times that he thought that nightingales were used as boogeymen to scare footpads into doing the right thing. So it kind of makes no sense that they just don't exist in the Skyrim Guild. Alright, let's wrap this thing up. So you run off to the big Indiana Jones ruins to Lara Croft your way through the crypts of Uldum. There's Dwemer shit, there's Falmer shit, there's Falmers using Dwemer shit. It's just a mess. And it's huge. And I think you're supposed to really take your time and kind of sneak up on your prey and use the shadows to your advantage, take on a little chunk of Falmer at a time. But that's if you're a Kevin. Me being the Bruce that I am, I ran my ass through the whole room while chugging potions. Oh god, they follow me. Well, too late to think about that now, I gotta keep running. Thank god there's only like lockpick gates and not actual puzzles, or I'd really be having a tough go at this right now. When I make it to the end, Mercer's just getting done prying off the second eye. There's a big showdown and the fella goes down faster than any of the hordes of Falmer that I just tore through. That's honestly about the ending that I figured that I would get with this guild. But wait, there's more! I gotta return this really useful item back to the Daedric Prince of Hide and Go Seek, because when I think of the final 2 Thieves Guild quests, I think killing hordes of monsters and one guy, and then unstealing an item. The Twilight Sepulchre is home to the spirits of nightingales who swore to protect it, meaning that the spirit of Gallus is actually here, and he talks you through everything that happened. He's a bit smaller than I thought he would be. He explains the whole luck thing as Nocturnal's influence. She basically exudes luck to those who worship her. So shit like a lockpick breaking or the moon suddenly peeking through the clouds to reveal thieves doesn't happen nearly as frequently. I think this big temple was supposed to be like a maze of puzzles. I even got a handy decoding book to explain each chamber to me, which was really unnecessary. I think even children can manage to figure out, oh, the light hurts me. I think the only thing that threw me off was the pit at the end, because Skyrim taught me early on that toddling off of a 3-foot cliff would shatter my spine into dust, but turns out it was all good to jump down this one. So you wait a few moments at the bottom of this chamber before realizing that there's a skeleton down here with you, and since you have the skeleton key, you can unlock it and fall through to the chamber below. When you return the key, Nocturnal appears to let you know that she's not going to be nice to you just because you did what you were supposed to do. She then gives you a very stern handjob in the form of a once-a-day superpower of your choice. You get such flavors as cherry, water, and bath salts. I went with water because being see-through is a great way to not be seen. After this, Gallus and Carlia are reunited, the lovers at last meeting. And Gallus celebrates this event by lovingly jogging within 5 feet of Carlia. That's just true love, folks. Then he tells her that as soon as she dies, they can be ghosts together, and then bids her farewell. If you've done all of the main stuff for the guild, all that remains are the side jobs. The side jobs are absolutely ass. I mean, don't get me wrong, it has you doing a lot of those Thieves Guildy type stuff that I said was missing before, but it's just a smattering of uninspired Radiant quests. And to unlock the real stuff, you have to do 5 Radiant quests per town. So when you do 5 small jobs in, say, Solitude, you then get to do the special job that seems a lot more like a proper Thieves Guild quest.
Captain Volv is ashore right now, and I want the authorities waiting for him when he gets back.
Now get going. I don't want to see your face until the job's done.
Then you get to repeat all of the small time shit again, which includes the likes of stealing a bunch of stuff from a place, pickpocketing an item off of someone, stealing a particular item from a home or business, planting a stolen item in another person's house, or forging numbers and ledgers. The last one is by far the easiest job, but it's so ridiculously boring and tedious to go to a town, waltz in, change the numbers, walk back out, travel to the guild, go to the Ragged Flagon, and do it all over again 20 times. And if you get unlucky enough to get a Riften quest, it doesn't count towards anything. But the most annoying thing of all is that if you get 2 or 3 of these special jobs done in these cities, you have to hope for RNG to continue to give you the correct Radiant quests for the last city. If not, you gotta either go do that extra quest or tell Delvin that you don't want the quest after all and re-roll, over and over again until you get your last city covered. What an absolute dog shit system. Why would you lock all of your special missions, which are honestly just average Thieves Guild quests, behind a slew of Radiant quests? I wasn't even gonna do these, but I thought I'd give it a shot and see if anything fun shook loose, and nothing did. Or at least nothing worth going through all that trouble over. The end result for all of this running around is a shop opening up for each city down in the Ragged Flagon. They all sell weaponry and armors besides the poison potion guy. Even though you were nominated for the title of the Thieves Guild Master through the main chunk of the story, you have to do all of this little side shit to officially get the title. And then the ceremony is, well, it's uneventful, but you get a cool set of armor and some other neat trinkets. I don't know, man. I'm just majorly let down by this guild at this point. I guess I just don't understand the lack of parallel between the Oblivion's Thieves Guild and Skyrim's. And I know at this point it's like, how many times are you gonna mention Oblivion, but why is it so hard to outdo a game that came out 5 years earlier? It doesn't make any sense. Oblivion's guild took care of its beggars. It gave back to the needy, and they were generally prankster-esque Robin Hood types. They got guards reassigned who were giving them trouble, they reined in freelance thieves, and they pulled off some amazingly high-profile heists. And they also did a pretty good job at weaving in a kick-ass story to tell along the way. Hell, I'd say Morrowind did a good job at conveying that feeling too. Skyrim starts off with some pretty interesting stuff, but always has you working against this mysterious force until the big twist is revealed, and then that's kind of where the intrigue dies. The big showdown isn't some grandiose heist where the stakes are intense, like stealing an Elder Scroll. It's taking out another thief who is mean to a goddess. Then you return the stolen item and get a spiffy new power, and that's it. This really could have been the questline of a brand new guild called the Nightingales, and it would have had just as much impact. And then they just shove all of the stuff I would expect of the Thieves Guild into these special side jobs that can only be unlocked by mushing your face into Todd Howard's asshole. Oh well, let's just move on to the Mages Guild before I get sad. So the Mages Guild, or the College of Winterhold as it's called in this game, and the Winterhold area in general, is probably one of the most aesthetically pleasing and impressive to look at areas in the entire game, at least in my opinion. It's a daunting fortress of a college across a man-made bridge over a steep valley of ice and snow. But to gain entry into this noble institution, you actually have to take a test of sorts. This is completely different from Oblivion, and it's actually a positive change in my eyes. When she said that I needed to take a test to get in, I expected 2 things. One, that if I tried to cross the bridge into the college's threshold without passing the test, that something bad would happen to me. And 2, that I honestly wouldn't be able to pass it because my grades here are tumultuous at best. But it actually isn't much of a test, you just need to cast a firebolt spell, and I guess it's random which spell you get, but you just have to cast whatever spell you get at the ground here. She even sells you one, which is nice. I can't complain about the simplicity of the test, because it's still a realistic way to separate someone with some property of magic to them, and Town Guard Bob, whose best magic trick is fitting a whole keg of meat inside him when he has time off. And I would definitely be hooped if they were looking for people with above D grade averages. After this, you meet the glorious leader who welcomes you to the college with some introductory robes and has you follow her around to be shown to your quarters and the like. The whole thing has a very real-life university kind of vibe, except that she goes on to tell you that they've had to increase security recently because Nords have been trying to dismantle the college or something, and then right after she says this, these guys just poof into existence.
We're here to teach you a lesson.
Apparently this was not supposed to happen because the tour guide here is broken afterwards and she keeps telling you that you can talk to her when the tour is finished whenever you approach. So I had to reload to do this over again, and she walks at the speed of 2 snails pushing 3 snails. Eventually, you're told to attend your first lecture class thing, which has you talking to this fella about safety, and with great power comes great accidentally killing yourself if you're not careful. These guys are all sitting here going, "Come on, Teach, we can totally do cool magic tricks. Let us enter our names into the Tri-Wizard tournament." And I'm just sitting here thinking about my low magic scores and whether or not zebras see in color or black and white. Then I'm picked as a test subject for the Ward spell, which would be a sweet spell if I didn't run out of dick after 3 seconds of casting. Then the professor excitedly claps his hands and says, "Hey guys, why do cool wizard shit when this game has 400 Nordic runes to trample through?" And so I ride off to class on my death horse. Upon arriving, you get sent further into the tomb to find little trinkets that are lying around. The last one is an amulet which sets off a trap to cage you in. When you equip it, the air around where you grabbed it from starts going nuts, and when you try to cast a spell, it destroys the structure which has sealed off an entire network to the tomb. Just to talk you through the logistics of this real quick. So someone forever ago set up this amulet to seal its user inside if they take it. And if the user couldn't figure out that they have to blast the stone that the amulet was lying on, I assume they die or they have to put it back or something. Yeah, that seems like a good system. So anyways, you go into a chamber with the old man where you promptly go on a mushroom trip. The apparition in front of you tells you that you set off a chain of events and that he was/is from the Psijic Order, and that only you could face the danger ahead. You tell the old man who didn't see anything and he goes, "Danger? Ha! That makes no sense at all." And then like 40 skeletons come shambling out of their sarcophagi. The professor here goes from, "Hey, make sure that you put safety above all else," to, "Yeah, I'm gonna hang back here and study this stuff. You go on ahead." That bastard completely cheesed it out of the room after I left. Man, let me tell you my favorite thing about Skyrim. It doesn't matter what guild you're a part of, or what set of quests you're on, or anything like that. You're always going to find yourself in a Nordic rune eventually. You know, it really ties everything together. And nothing screams Mage's Guild like going through what feels like the same ancient tomb, with the same skeletons and coffins, and the same lame rotating block puzzles, except with the added bonus of a big mage orb at the end of it. So what do we really learn here? 1. The Psijic Order was, or is, a powerful ancient order of mages that were responsible for a lot of advancements in magic knowledge. And 2. Big Mage Ball, make a big mystery. I'm sent back to show and tell about the Big Mage Ball, and the Archmage says, "Fine, but you know, now you gotta go research it. Go ask the bookman below to give you smart books about the topic." Alright people, welcome back to Design That Quest. That's right everyone, the game show where the contestants get to be a writer at Bethesda for a day and design that quest. The rules are simple, all you have to do is design a quest so that it fits into Skyrim in the best way possible. But be careful, too much innovation and it might be better suited to Morrowind or Oblivion. Alright, now let's see how our first contestant of the day does. Option A. Urag is particularly grumpy today. He has the books, but he wants you to explore the magical menagerie filled with unique and mystical amalgamations below the college's grounds for a rare substance to make a potion with. Option B. Urag has the books, but he has a lot of work to clear out first. Go retrieve 3 overdue books from other apprentices. Oh, plot twist though, the last book student is missing. Fortunately, the book's in his room, but when you go to grab it, you get pulled into a fictional story realm and need to escape. Option C. A guy stole the books and gave them to a rival sorcerer faction. Looks like the contestant is looking at option C, but wait! Oh no, what's this? The contestant is locked in option B. That's way too much innovation. How did he not realize? Well, you truly hate to see it, but better luck next time, contestant. So yeah, you go kick the asses of every mage at this weird offshoot of a school. I just wish it didn't look like every other tower type thing in this game. I mean, it's supposed to be a rival school, right? Sure, they're a bit lacking in morals, what with locking up all of these wolves and vampires and the human who brought the books there. But they have what appears to be training halls and classes with instructors, and the whole place looks like a big dumb dungeon that would fit in with the Brotherhood and Thieves quests. I don't know, this didn't even have to be particularly innovative from an objective perspective, but it could have at least made the effort of constructing a setting that looked something like it would actually rival the College of Winterhold. Oh well. One of the books you retrieve mentions Sarthal by name, and explains that it was the first city that the Nords settled in Skyrim. It was burnt to the ground by the Snow Elves, which became the Falmer, and the Nords retaliated by wiping out the Snow Elves and driving the remaining ones underground. The book then speculates that something of great power and mystery was found and sealed under Sarthal, and the Elves attacked because they wanted it. Upon returning to the college, the first thing to note is the relocation of the big-ass mage ball, which is now hanging out in one of the rooms. You return the books and report back to Old Man Winter, who asks you about the one that you read. He starts going on about the symbols on this big magic ball and how it exudes a powerful amount of magicka, when suddenly this walking bag of jaundice comes in and interrupts him. He asks why someone from the Psijic Order is here asking for me specifically. I'm like, aren't you just an advisor, dude? And he's like, yeah, but still, come with me. So I follow Volcano down, and sure enough, the guy's just hanging out with the Archmage. On approach, the world goes gray again and everyone disappears. Apparently, this is something that he can do to have a private conversation, which is actually cool. He tells you that his order watches over everything magic related, and noted that the object that we found, called the Eye of Magnus, is extremely dangerous and might be used for the wrong reasons if left unchecked. And finally, he directs you to someone named the Augur of Dunlane, who is supposed to be somewhere here on the college grounds. I ask the old man about him, and he says that he's located beneath the college in a semi-dangerous stretch. I ask the guy to tell me more about the Augur, and he's like, well, he was before my time, but he was super brilliant. And focused. Maybe even too focused. And then the accident happened. What? What accident? There is no option to ask what accident, even though it's very obvious that any person anywhere would ask that. I guess my character zoned out. So it's down to Midden, which sounds pretty intimidating, but the place you gotta get to takes like 2 minutes. When you get to the door, a voice goes, "You can't come this way, it's useless." And then you wait 4 seconds and he goes, "God damn, you're persistent, alright, come on in." The Augur is actually a big bunch of swirling light, and he answers your questions like God in Futurama, but not before telling you that it's too late. This is a really stupid way of trying to create a sense of defeat that isn't there. The Augur tells you multiple times that it's too late, that everything set in motion can't be reversed, and that there's not much to be done. Then he tells you what you can do about all of this. Okay. So the Eye of Magnus apparently needs a staff to utilize it properly and prevent it from being super destructive. The Staff of Magnus is supposed to be a powerful staff of old, as the Archmage mentions when you return. Moses also lets you know that Volcano visited earlier with a bunch of aggressive questions, so that's fun. When you return to the Archmage, he gives you a big round of applause for being the best apprentice ever. This would be the part of the Mages Guild where I get a new title, but as mentioned before, we're done with those apparently in Elder Scrolls. But what Skyrim does make sure is that you get some kind of physical item. It doesn't matter if this quest took me a grand total of 7 minutes, 4.5 of which was listening to people talk. I have to get something for my troubles, or how else am I going to be entertained, Todd? Anyways, you inquire about this staff, and this lady says that a group from Cyrodiil called the Synod was after it. They're portrayed as a very self-important group that's hell-bent on the gathering of powerful knowledge and artifacts. It's odd because Mirabelle here tells you that she would rather them not be collecting such dangerous objects, but I guess she wasn't concerned enough to organize any sort of group to maybe go along and stop these guys from obtaining the Staff of Magnus by any means. I guess it's fortunate that I came along and she remembered which runes they were headed off to. When you arrive at the Dwemer rune, there's a guy who's almost dead who gives you instructions to go to the Oculory, whatever that is. So you get to the center of this Tootsie Pop and the guy goes, "What'd you do with my colleague?" And I go, "Yeah, he's dead." And he goes, "Damn, must have been the Falmer." It's a weird 180 on that suspicion, but hey, we'll take it. This fella starts going on and on about how this whole thing was his idea and how brilliant he is and all that stuff. Then he leads you to this big-ass room with this big-ass spherical astrolabe thing in the center. I slapped the buttons for a while before going, "Alright, what am I missing?" And then he explained to me that I need to use cold, and insulted the college again for being inferior to the Synod. I'd say that I'm offended, but I literally did not know a cold spell, so yeah. Anyways, I get this thing going, and the guy starts losing his shit after a projection of Skyrim appears. Apparently it was supposed to show the entire continent of Tamriel, and light up places of important magical artifacts, but it stopped in Skyrim because of the Eye of Magnus. He accuses you of being some kind of slick undercover agent attempting to stop him from completing his work, which doesn't make any sense in the slightest because I retrieved the focusing crystal for him and did all of the work. He then starts going off about how this is better than he ever could have hoped for, because now he's going to report to the rest of the Synod in Cyrodiil about this so-called scheme that the college is involved in. So, the dude's kinda nuts. He also goes, oh yeah, the staff you're looking for is probably in the Labyrinthian. Not that that matters after I report this. Alrighty buddy, see ya. On my way out, Mirage Man makes a mini message telling me to march to the mages, effectively halting my retrieval of the big important staff. Well, turns out Avocado has really done it this time, and the lad has decided that the best course of action is to zap the big beefin' ball at the center of the hall. So you bust in on him, and he doesn't say much besides oh my wah, and then makes the Archmage part of the school's foundation. The other girl from before goes, hey, get up. I need you on your feet. Bitch, what are you doing? My feet were never anywhere but on. So I run outside, and yeah, this guy's not going anywhere. He's so rooted into the ground that it's like trying to loot a tree at this point. So I have to go protect the town now because Father Time would much rather water the Archmage than be useful in this game. I slay the hell out of these magic worms and loot their bodies for some big boy soul gems and then report back to temporary Argonian sits on ground to ask her what the hell she's doing. She goes, hey dude, you gotta get that staff. We'll sit here and be useless. We're gonna stop Guantanamo from expanding the planetarium. When you tell her that the staff is in the Labyrinthian, she goes, what? The Archmage gave me this item from that place and told me I would know what to do with it when the time came. Wow. Alright, let's break down why this is bullshit storytelling. The Archmage might have been one of the most clueless higher-ups I have ever seen in any of these games, and the guy was literally the leader of the college. When you ask him about the augur earlier, he goes, that old myth? What tall tales has Grandpa been telling you today? And then when you return to him to tell him that you spoke to the augur, he goes, oh, yeah, sweet man, really cool. When you tell him, hey, we found a big fucking ball in Sarthal, he goes, huh, weird, go look it up in the library. A member of the Sigic Order visits after so many years of being shut away, asks for me, and then goes, oh, well, there must have been some kind of mistake, after he was done talking to me. Even Arpeggio shows some initiative here by going, okay buddy, that makes 0 sense, why did you really come here? While the Archmage goes, oh dear, I hope we haven't offended him. Savos Aaron was a dink, and to sit here and give him this post-mortem significance like he had some kind of explosive epiphany and gave Mirabelle an amulet that's going to help me now is just ludicrous given how he's behaved at every opportunity. So it's off to Pan's Labyrinth, a location that I am 100% sure will be awful before I even get to it.
Who knows what we could find?
And what if there are things guarding this place?
Against 6 college-trained mages? I think we'll be fine.
We have to go back. We can't leave Gerduin.
We barely made it out alive. You want to go back in?
Why not go forward? We can still do this.
Face your end.
We're not going to make it over.
So yeah, this whole place is about what I expected. Apparently Savos was here before with a bunch of friends and they all died and he kept going, come on guys, we can make it. Meanwhile, this disembodied voice is taunting you, first mistaking you for Savos and then realizing that maybe Savos sent you. The most innovative part of this labyrinth are the frozen and flamey doors, and they aren't really awe-inspiring, to say the least. It's kind of just another Nordic rune, which really sucks. I mean, the Twilight Sepulchre at least had the common courtesy to come up with some interesting room ideas. The last room has these 2 wizards making a big force field seal thing on the main mean boy, and apparently Savos left them there to die while promising to seal away the place forever. And he did, with this plank of wood. Afterwards, you play peekaboo with the assassin that was sent by Baklava while he was still controlling the big ball, apparently. And then you get back to the college where the big ward field has multiplied in size. You use the staff on it, run in, and deal with the big evil dude once and for all. He's invincible at first, but you use the staff on the thing and he becomes the opposite of invincible. The dude from the Sijic Order comes in and goes, "We knew you could do it. You know what? You deserve to run this school. So congratulations, Archmage." What? I don't think you get to choose this, buddy. This is like a police officer coming into a restaurant having really good service and going, "You know what? You should be manager. Congrats on your promotion." But apparently Gandalf agrees and pronounces you Archmage, and that's the entire plotline for this guild. I am starting to physically ache from these guild stories. Of course, there are side quests, which include such thrilling entertainment as finding books, finding an alembic, finding some writings, and finding a better game to play, but we're gonna skip those. I'd say the most interesting quests in this guild actually stem from the ritual spells, which are available when your magic-related skills hit level 90. All of the quests reward you with some very powerful spells and range from relatively interesting to pretty fun. My personal favorite is the Conjuration Ritual, which has you taming an unbound Dremora. I guess all in all, I'd have to place the college over the Mages Guild of Oblivion. I didn't like Oblivion's iteration of the guild at all, but I did enjoy the plot of the college a fraction more. I don't know, man. All of the entertainment in Skyrim seems to be extremely surface level. And that's just it, I'm having a lot of fun still just playing the game. Because I'm still running around and exploring shit and leveling and crafting and fighting and gaining powers and glory. It's all very much a non-stop dopamine rush. And that's only exacerbated by the non-stop rewards for doing every single little type of quest in this game. And even if you get bored of that, hey, there's mods. But if you dive any deeper than the surface, for the most part, you're not going to find a lot of fulfillment. Sure, there's chunks of fun story elements, and there's some cool ideas, and a handful of characters and settings that really hold my interest for more than a few moments. But for the vast majority of the time, it's just non-stop shallow bullshit that really feels like a husk of the series and not the meat of it. And that's why a lot of people like me got sick of dragons, or make fun of the introduction, or laugh at about the near non-existent puzzles. Because despite the lack of plot elements and quest depth, the game is still fun to play, and fun to mod, and fun to pick back up after some time has passed. But if you're expecting much more than the thrill of grinding through a dungeon, getting a new shiny or a power, and then leaving through the shortcut that connects back to the entrance, you're only going to be satisfied maybe 10% of the time. Alright, let's get to the war stuff. So like I said before, I'm siding with the Imperials. The set of quests that you get when joining them over the Stormcloaks is more or less the same, but with a slightly different flavor. The big difference is the philosophy you're fighting for, and the characters that you interact with. The Legion seems to consist of two main players at first, General Tullius and Legate Ricka. Ricka's a battle-hardened Nord who is extremely knowledgeable about the race's traditions, myths, legends, and emotions. Tullius tends to disregard or berate a lot of the stuff that she tells him as silly superstitions, fairy tales, and general nonsense. But he always seems to take what she says into consideration when he's done giving her shit for it. My first mission to prove my worth is to clear a fort of brigands. That doesn't take too much effort, obviously, and I trot my way back to Castle Dower in Solitude to officially become a member of the Imperial Legion, and immediately get thrown back into the fray on a mission to recover the Jagged Crown. Supposedly a crown crafted from ancient dragon teeth and bone, this legendary item is a great show of power to the Nord population in Skyrim. If we don't recover it and it falls into the hands of Ulfric Stormcloak, it'll be a huge blow to the Legion's popularity for those undecided. So we all meet outside this rune and charge into it, taking on the Stormcloaks that have littered the place. I think the most fun way to play this quest is to sneak ahead and try to kill everything before the Legionnaires can run into the obvious ambushes. I guess it's not really friendly to the surely epic dialogue that they wrote for Ricka here, when she reveals that she's actually a single mother who lost her husband and had her son crippled at the hand of a stunt. You're out of your mind if you think they wrote any sort of compelling character in this game. You run through this rune that literally has the default set of check marks for a Nordic rune, but with the added bonus of Stormcloaks. I just hate fighting with other people on my side because I always hit them by accident. So you snag the crown, push the wooden plank out of the way of the exit, and hand the power hat off to the general, who commends you on your work and gives you a message to deliver to Jarl Balgruuf in Whiterun. Apparently the Stormcloaks are going to attack the city, and the good Jarl has been refusing the help of the Legion. Time to see if we can actually convince him otherwise. Well, it doesn't take too much convincing, as the Jarl is pissed about Ulfric being so indirect, and has me carry his axe to him as a final point. Either you're with me, or you're against me. So this is one of the parts of Skyrim that I actually love. Listening to Balgruuf talk to his people about the country and what Ulfric has done to it, and then listening to Ulfric talk about why he fights and what he's fighting for is a captivating experience. Ulfric Stormcloak is an extremely charismatic man, and he speaks extraordinarily well about what he fights for. It's hard to not be swayed when he speaks of returning to his country after fighting for the Empire and seeing how weak and impoverished Skyrim's become under its rule. But realistically, that's just part of being a nation, and Skyrim trying to emancipate itself is only going to do more harm than good to its people. At least that's how I feel, and that's how a lot of other Nords feel. I just love the politics in this game, and it's a shame how they're padded by Skyrim dungeons, and Skyrim animations, and Skyrim puzzles. I just wish there was more love put into this game, like it has something to prove. It's a huge game, but just think about it. There's 5 years between Oblivion's release and Skyrim's. That really is not a lot of time to create something as huge as Skyrim and then polish it to a perfect sheen. That is, until you look at a game like The Witcher 3, which came out 4 years after Skyrim, and The Witcher 2. It's really hard to forgive a lot of the immersion-ruining interruptions, like some random steward talking to you when you're listening to the plot, or watching Ulfric do these weird ballerina twirls before finally sitting in his seat in the exact same position that Balgruuf does. It's lazy. It takes some of my favorite moments and makes me lose focus on them. And it's hard to stomach with other developers stepping up to the plate and doing something massive, but with love. I mean, imagine being able to outright kill Ulfric Stormcloak right now. Yes, I completely ruin this set of quests if I do this. I get that. But why can't I ruin them for myself? You have a game series that at its core is made for save scrubbing and reloading and trying again. There is no game over, there's reload the last save. Morrowind understood this when you could kill one of the most integral people and an actual deity, Lord Vivek. The game even tells you that the world is doomed if you do this, even though it technically isn't, and that's all there is to it. I guess I just don't feel that spirit living on in this game. At any rate, sorry to go off on a tangent there. Ulfric acknowledges your bravery for arriving alone and delivering another Nord's axe to him. Ultimately though, he sends you away to take it back to Balgruuf, and lets you know that his troops will be marching on Whiterun sooner than I think. Well, it turns out that this means like right when I get back. As the Jarl and an Imperial commander discuss tactics, one of the scouts finally blurts out that the Stormcloaks are about to descend on the city right now, which means it's time to fight it out. I actually tried to have a bit of fun with the fighting, which I kinda did to a degree. Being untethered as a werewolf and mauling people is really cool, but it also destroys the part where you have to return to hear the Jarl's victory speech, because everyone freaks out when they see a werewolf, despite Werewolf HQ being based in the city walls. It's not really a huge deal though to me, because I already skipped the pregame speech. You know the one.
Alright men, people are burning alive and our city walls are literally under siege. But I need to tell you how important this fight is. For the Empire! Ah!
That speech. It's alright though, Todd floated a dragon my way immediately after the battle, so I did that instead of speeches. Just wish that, being a werewolf against a dragon wasn't literally the worst thing ever. When you report back to General Tullius, he gives you the first and maybe the only official middle ground title of the whole game, and it doesn't even sound like it's a real thing. Then he sends you off with Rika to reclaim the Pale from the Stormcloaks. This is the meat of the war as far as questing goes. You go to a new region, complete a precursory mission, and then take a major fort. When you return, you get a new rank. I know it's gonna sound weird, but I kind of like it. That's not to say I'd be satisfied doing much more than what's required, but I like watching the map change from blue to red, and the feeling of accomplishment that comes particularly with the quest where you intercept the orders and forge the new ones. It's kind of the best of both worlds, from sneaking around and picking pockets to a giant battle that has you slaying a ton of men. It's weird because when I slay a wolf or a bear or a Daedra or a dragon, I don't feel particularly powerful. Just feels kind of like another day at the office. I feel like a video game character. Especially when the entire town, including Meemaw from down the street, comes running out to throw fists at dragons. But there's something more grounded about going into a battle with maybe 8 or so men against 40-ish opponents and just letting loose and feeling like a killing machine. I guess I feel like a video game character here too, but it feels better. It's hard to explain, I guess. Maybe it's just a personal preference. Eventually, you make it to the rank of Legate as well, and the final assault is planned out. While I enjoyed these quests for what they were, seeing Rika at every single camp and Hadvar at 2 of the sneaky missions kind of just deflated the excitement a bit. It just feels like they could have had a lot of different people, or like a couple different legates involved in these quests, instead of the entire operation seemingly hinging on 3 or so people. The final assault takes place at Windhelm, where General Tullius and 9 entire men are waiting to advance on the city. You march in and take on less people than there were manning the forts, and then make it to Ulfric. It's bittersweet to hear Ulfric Stormcloak give such a powerful statement about him belonging to Skyrim, and how the Empire has failed the nation. But it's not bittersweet because I have to execute him, it's bittersweet because the sheer loss of potential here is staggering. I get that it was 2011, but I refuse to believe a game that has dragons fly in and attack whole towns, which fight back, cannot handle a larger amount of men fighting at the same time. You don't have to have literally hundreds fighting at once, but can you at least line up a bunch on the bridge and outside of the bridge to Windhelm? Can actually killing the Emperor of Tamriel as a Dark Brotherhood assassin have an effect on this war? Can being the Master of the Thieves Guild affect the quest where you need to prove that the Jarl of Riften has ties to the Thieves Guild? Can there be more decisions that affect any other major plot element in general? It's really upsetting, honestly, and to call any of these quests or this game so far a labor of love is just insanity. Alright, let's finish this video up with the main quest and pray for the best. So the last thing we did was recover the Dragonstone and kill a dragon. Now it's time to pay a visit to the Greybeards up on this godforsaken mountain to see what they want. When I arrive, they teach me the second part of a shout, have me practice it, and then give me a new one. Then they want me to retrieve the ancient horn of their founder, which involves, you guessed it, an old Nordic rune. What I can say about this one is that it's one of the more interesting layouts for a tomb, and you can tell that it was a little more thought out. Plus, since you had to get a shout to get this tomb pointed out to you, they can even toss in a puzzle that utilizes the whirlwind sprint to progress. When you get to the horn, there is no horn. There's just a sticky note that says, haha, come to this inn. So I head to this inn and the innkeeper meets with me and gives me the horn. I'd criticize the method here, but I guess I actually can't fault her for doing this the way that she did. She then explains that she's from some sort of group that historically has sought out and destroyed dragons, and they're at odds with the Thalmor. She tells you that the Dragonborn is the ultimate killing weapon, and that dragons aren't just repopulating, they're rising from the dead.